and I will be discussing to you the story of The God Stealer by Francisco Chanel Jose. When Jose was 5 years old, his grandfather, who was a soldier during the Philippine Revolution, had once tearfully showed him the land their family had once tilled but was taken by rich mestizo landlords who knew how to work the system against literates like this grandfather.
Jose attended the University of Santo Tomas after World War II, but dropped out and plunged into writing and journalism in Manila. He started a publishing house and founded the Philippine branch of PEN, an international organization for writers. Jose received numerous awards for his work. The Pretenders is his most popular novel, which is the story of one man's alienation from his poor background and the decadence of his wife's wealthy family. Francisco Chanel Jose was born on December 3, 1924. He is one of the most widely read Filipino writers in the English language. His novels and short stories depict the social underpinnings of class struggles and colonialism in Filipino society. Some of his famous works include The God Stealer and Other Stories, Two Filipino Women, Ben Singkul, and many more.
So, The God Stealer is a short story written by a Filipino national artist, Francisco Chanel Jose. It is Jose's most anthologized work of fiction. It is not just a tale about an Ifugao stealing a religious idol, but also about the friendship that developed between Filipino and an American. It is the representation of the relationship that developed between the colonized and the colonizer. The story was the first prize winner during the 1951 awards in the Philippines. It is included in book by Jose with a similar title, The God Stealer and the Other Stories. Let's proceed to the elements of the story. First, the characters. Character is a person, animal, being, creature, or thing in a story who portrays the action. The first character in the story is Philip Latak, or also known as Ipi. He is an Ifugao who became a city dweller. Philip became less sentimental with his cultural identity, beliefs, and customs. His name was derived from the word the Philippines. Second, Sam Christie. Sam Christie was an American who wanted to view the rice terraces of the mountain province, or also known as the Cordilleras. He was also interested in purchasing an original figurine of an Ifugao god. His name was derived from Uncle Sam, a representation of the United States. Third, grandfather of Ipi. It symbolizes the time, the old days, and the past stories. Next, Sadik. Sadik embraces his culture. The next element of the story is setting. Setting is where and when the story takes place or happens. The story takes place in Banawe Rice Terraces in Mountain Province, in Manila, where Philip is currently residing at, and Baguio. The next element is plot. Plot is a simple sequence of the story. Sam Christie and Philip Latak, his Filipino assistant, were best of friends because they are both young and they work in the same office. They rode on their way to Ifugao. Philip now lives in Manila, which is against the wishes of his family, particularly his grandfather, who intended to leave to Philip his share of the famous rice terraces. Second, the rising action. They are on their way to Mountain Province for one purpose: Sam wants to buy a genuine Ifugao God souvenir and Philip was to help him find an authentic one through his local connections. Next, we have the climax. Philip chanced to steal the god from his grandfather. He got the god and gave it to Sam Christie. Due to Philip's action, his grandfather died because of grief to the missing god statue. Then, the denouement. Philip chose to stay than to go back to Manila with Sam. He realizes the worth of his origin. The next element of the story is theme. Theme is what the author is trying to convey, or in other words, it is the central idea of the story. First, we have friendship. It talks about the friendship between Sam and Philip. In another context, it is the relationship between the two countries, which is the Philippines and America. The second theme is colonial mentality. It also talks about the past, which is the colonization. It is how the countries did to obtain the Philippines' wealth. The next theme is value of heritage. This story talks about how we should value our heritage and preserve it for the next generation. It also talks about the social issues, and Filipino is rich in cultural heritage. The next element of the story is conflict. Conflict in a story is a struggle between opposing forces. We have two conflicts in the story. The first is man versus himself and man versus society. First, let's talk about the man versus himself. It is man versus himself because he stole his grandfather's idol as a gift for Sam in return for his kindness in making the visit in Ifugao possible. It is also man versus society because what Phillips did is against their tradition, but he decided to steal the god for his grandfather, even though it is prohibited to their tribe and traditions. The next element of the story is symbolism. Symbolism is a literary device that uses symbols, can be words, people, marks, locations, or abstract ideas to represent something beyond literal meaning. In our story, we have different symbols. First, we have the Ifugao God. Ifugao God symbolizes as the Filipino soul. A nation's soul is an organic construct. We ourselves shape it with our dreams and aspirations and also our ideals. It is not something that can be imposed. We grow to love this soul and develop loyalty to it. The second is Philip Latak. Philip Latak symbolizes the Philippines, and Latak is an old Tagalog for sediment, but Latak has a much deeper meaning. Next, we have Sam Christie. Sam Christie represents the America and Christianity. Next elements of the story is the moral lesson. In our story, we have this lesson. Always appreciate and value where you came from. The main character named Philip has become less sentimental on his past origins and his cultural identity as a price of living in the city. He has stolen his grandfather's Ifugao God statue in exchange of a higher salary to be given by his boss. In the end, his grandfather died out of grief for the missing God statue. That would be all. Thank you. I hope you learned something.